So let's start making those notches now as a separate object, and we'll then transplant it into this one. So looking from the bottom view now, bottom of the graphic view, let's go and add a circle. And there's our circle, very big. And the default 32, of course. Let's change that to 12. Let's bring down the size. That will do for now. Let's switch X-ray on. Let's just move that down. That will leave it there for now. This is looking a bit weird because we're not looking at it from the top view. You can see there. So let's leave it on the top view then, because it doesn't make a difference at this point. It's the same shape, whichever way you look at it. There's our circle anyway. Let's press S to scale it. This is going to be the width of the notch, essentially. So let's have a quick look at our reference again. And you can see there, this one's quite thick and chunky. I like that. This is a bit more thin. This is also lower down from this edge here. This one's higher up. This one's evenly distributed, which is quite nice. I like that. I want to do something similar to this one. So there's our circle, as we said. Maybe scale that up just a wee bit. And that's going to be the first notch, probably around here. The idea is that we have these like that. They're probably too big, actually. So if we just do this as a test, select our circles, and let's drag those into our holotape collection. So here we are, the notches. Let's scale these individually. I've got a better idea of their size and distribution. So something like that is good. Let's delete all the other ones we don't need, just for placement. Let's focus our attention on this one. Now I scaled this in object mode. So again, apply the scale. I'm just going to hit my button there in the add-on, or press Ctrl A to apply the scale. And with that done, we're going to tab into edit mode. Let's select these. Let's press Shift D, right click. Let's move them away from those and select these again and delete them. Now we have that gap between it. Let's connect these together now. So selecting these two verts, let's press F to create a fill or an edge. F again here. Now we've got this. We can select these vertices and move them along. Something like that. I'm just going to check to see how far these go. So roughly where that point there is. And this one, pretty much wherever you like, really. This one's shorter than the other ones. So this one can go maybe here, maybe there. But I'm conscious of the fact we need to add the screw as well. So this might be too high, too close to that edge there. Let's bring that in a little bit and move these inwards towards the middle of that area there, which makes more sense. That gives us plenty of space for the screws, or whatever they are, holes, whatever you want to put there. Let's bring that in a touch. So that's our starting point anyway for the indents. That's a good shape to work with. So let's switch to edge mode, select everything, and press F to fill it. To fill it, if I say it properly. Top view. So I'm going to move these down. Let's move them up there above the objects. It's easier to see what we're doing. So we have the object. Let's go to edit mode again. So with that face selected, which is a large n-gon essentially, press I to insert that, and we get this. I mean, ideally, you just want it to be something like that. That would be the bottom of the insert, really. Because I'm going to give it a slight taper or angle as it goes inwards. This is quite nice though, I do like this. But I'm going to try and do it the way I did it originally. So I'm going to give that an insert of so much. I'll go to the top view to make it easier to see. Let's give us more space there. Maybe scale that up just a touch. The angle isn't as acute. Let's bring that down. That would be the depth of our notches, indents, right? to make them nice and chunky, something like that. But actually, let's forget about faces for a second. Let's go to edge selection. Select this edge loop, which runs all the way around inside. Let's Control B and add a bevel. So Control B, drag your mouse out and give it a nice bevel. Something like that is good. And while I'm at it, let's select these edge loops, which go all the way around, of course, and add a mean crease of 1. That will just make sure that our subdivision doesn't spill over, make this curved, and so on. Let's head over to the top view, and let's also connect these up. So we've got a big N-gon here. I want to press J to connect these. And let's connect them here as well. Then we can select this one over here and the one on the opposite side and press J. Now we do have an N-gon here. It's got 5 sides. So you could fix that quite easily by selecting this vertex, this vertex over here. Do it this way, might as well. Press J to join them. Another way to do that, instead of doing it this way, you can just do it this way. And that will create a quad there and a quad there, and so on. So yeah, you can do it that way. But I want to do it this way for now. So select that one again, and the opposing side and press J. There we have that. Let's add some loop cuts either side of these ones here so that they're supported a bit more. We can add a mean crease of 1 to those. So Control R anyway, and scroll your mouse wheel until you get some edge loops close to where those are. Maybe something like that. I'm looking for squares there, essentially. So maybe 45, 44, that's fine. And we want to select, we want to keep all of these apart from, so we want to delete all of these apart from the ones we've just made here. So we can select all of these here along. And now we can do Control Delete. And with this one here, we're going to do Alt click, Shift Alt click, and give that a mean crease of 1 as well. Let's give it some surface on the top side, which we'll insert into this object at the bottom. But this gives us a nice barrier of safety, essentially. So with that selected, we're going to do E to extrude, and then Alt S should give us, but it doesn't for some weird reason. Let's just press S for scale and bring that out like that, and then we can scale it in the Y axis as well. So S, Y, bring that out like so. I'm not really happy with that, to be honest. But it will work. What I'm going to do is select these verts and just line them up with these ones, because that's where they should be, really, like that. Then this should be more curved. So I'm going to select these with my selection brush, which is the C key, right click, and then right click and do Loop Tools space, like that. That spaces them out, obviously, evenly. Let's do the same on this side. Let's move these and snap them to there. C key, select, right click, Loop Tools, and space. Is it perfect? No. Let's scale that out a little bit more on the Y. I think that's fine. You can see what the idea is here. Just need to add a support edge loops along this top edge here. So again, like we did at the bottom there, we're going to do that same here. So Control B and give that make that a little bit more rounded, maybe at the top, softer, like that. And still in edge selection mode, we're going to click on this one, or click, shift, or click, and add a mean crease of 1. Again, that will just make sure a subdivision is controlled. We can put that to the test. Let's add a subdivision modifier. Give that 2 iterations, right click and shade smooth. You can see we now have this trough-like object, which we're going to use to copy 3 times and then flip it upside down, inject them into here. Right, top view. Let's turn off our subdivision modifier. And we're going to copy this. I've just noticed actually, this edge should be flush with that one there. These vertices just there. So I'm going to move them up, snap it with the control key, just like that. There we go. Bit nicer, I think. Okay, so let's select. Let's go back to object mode. That's roughly where we want it, right? Give or take. So to start off with, let's add an array modifier. We want this to be arrayed 3 times. If we can see them, let's make that gap larger. We want 4 essentially. We want that to be in that direction. Let's change the offset from 0 in the X to the Y. Put 1 in the Y. And of course, that's all going to be next to each other. All we need to do is increase this gap like that. At this point, you want to be looking for the space between this edge here and the hole there. Kind of matches the gap we have there. That's probably a bit larger than this one. So I'll undo that. And I'll bring that down, holding down shift, a little bit like that. That looks okay. Yep, I think that looks fine. Now, this is actually much longer than oh, I've gone too far, haven't I there? It needs to be here. So we'll sort that out in a second. And these need to be further in on this side. So go down top view. Now we can't really do anything with the array modifier other than array something. So we're going to apply that. Now we have one object with multiple indents. I'm going to switch to vertex mode. And we're going to select all of these here, side. Let's make sure we don't miss anything. Let's switch to, let's go to solid and turn X-ray on. Select all of these. Just bring them in like that. Somewhere like that is good for now. And all of these can go inwards about there. Give or take, I'm going to go there. Object mode, turn X-ray off. Right, so we need to put this now into the underside of this tape holder, or whatever it is. And before we do that, let's check our face orientation or face normals. They're looking good. And I'll show you why that's important in a second. If we select this now and do scale Z -1, mirror it, essentially mirror it on the Z axis, right? Now, if we do that, you can see we've got -1 in the scale, which is not good. So as usual, apply the scale. I'm just going to use my add-on to click apply scale, or if not, hit Control A, apply scale. Now if we check our face orientation, if that's let's move that up so we can see it. That's the part we want to see at the bottom of on the underside there. These are now red, because we basically flipped it inside out. So we need to fix that. So tab into edit mode. Select all of the faces by pressing A, and I'm going to hit recalculate normal. You can do the same with Alt N, recalculate outside. That's looking good now. That's looking absolutely fine. The last thing we need to do is let's turn off that. Let's turn off our subdivision on the tape holder. Now this object needs to be sitting flush with the underside there. So with that selected, let's turn wireframe on. Remember, our pivot point is exactly here. So I'm going to click on the blue arrow, and that's not going to work from this side. If I bring that inside there and then do it from that side of the object and snap it there, that now sits flush with the underside of that tape holder. You can see it's got that jittery stuff going on. Set fighting, as they say. You don't need all of this topology here. It's in the way, so we need to figure out what can we delete to make space for these indents and then connect them up to the existing geometry. You can see why this is very different from the top. This can get quite messy, but as long as it works and the topology is decent, it's absolutely fine. Excuse me. I never get a glass of water while I'm doing this. I should, shouldn't I? Right. Face selection. And remember, we're now on the tape holder on this object here. I'm going to tab into edit mode. I want to add a loop cut in there first. It's there. Maybe around here. We can leave it there for now. We can always move it later on. Now we can just delete these faces here. Like that. Delete those. Make a big hole in that object there. All that's left to do now, all that's left is to fill these gaps in with the existing, well, all the vertices we've got here need to go somewhere. But I always say this is on a flat surface. It doesn't have to be perfect. We've got a lot of edge loops here we can play with. Let's try to marry some of these up best we can without breaking. And we shouldn't mess with these because they're holding things in place on the other side. But we can break things on this top side or underside, as it were. As long as we restrict what we do here, we're absolutely fine. Add this, connect this to this one object. So I'm going to select the indents first, then the holotape, the tape holder, and then press Ctrl J. That would join these to that. Now we can tab into edit mode, select this vertex and then this one, and press M, merge at last. Let's do the same with this one here and this one. Now we'll leave that one as it is for now. What else can we do here? Save. Let's have a look at our matte cap. See if we can notice anything. I think that's looking really nice. Let's come out of isolation mode. Yeah, that's looking really nice. We've just got the two holes to make there. That's probably going to ruin our beautiful work we've just made there. But we'll figure it out, right? The next thing we're going to focus on is the two screws that go just in this area here. So I'm going to select the tape holder, I've called it. I'm going to isolate that with the /? key. And let's turn off the subdivision modifier as well. Let's tab into edit mode. So we need to add the screws somewhere there. Should be relatively straightforward. So what I'm doing there is pressing 7 on the keypad, which is the top view, right? So top view, and then hold down Control and press 7 again. And that will flip it to the bottom view. So we can see that there. Okay, let's select face mode. And I'm going to select these faces there. And we're going to do I for inset. And do that. And I'm actually going to delete those faces. Let's do delete faces. Now we have the hole there. We don't have a hole at the top of course, just the bottom. So Control 7, go back to that view. And switch to edge mode. Alt click that one there. Right click, loop tools, circle. Now we have a nice circle. So maybe make that. Let's keep it like that size for now. And let's press F to fill, I to inset. That will create a nice boundary loop just on the outside there. That will do. And if we just maneuver that so we can see it in perspective. What I'm going to do now is press the E key to extrude and go down. And how far did I go down on my other one? Not too far. Let's go with something like that. And I think I'm going to give that a bit of a slanted inset. So I'm going to press S for scale. Maybe move that somewhere like that. I think that ought to do. And then we can add some support loops basically. Before we do that, let's delete that face there and select this edge loop here and do face grid fill. And we get that little bit of quad fill there. Cool. So if we go back to object mode now and turn on the subdiv, we get this nice circular indentation there for whatever you want to put in there, a screw or something else, but it's a little bit too soft. So we need to kind of just put some more support loops in there. First one I'm going to do is these ones. You could argue that maybe you want to spin this a little bit on the, in fact, I might just do that. If I select, let's go to face select actually, and select these 4 faces there, holding down Control plus on the numpad, that will grow the selection or decrease it. With that selected, and I'm going to press R to rotate, just make that a little bit more, less distorted essentially. That's good. Right, edge selection mode. Let's select this outer ring there. And then with that, I'm going to go to item just over here and increase the mean crease to 1. And that will stop our subdivision flowing into the area over here, essentially, making it more rounded than flat. So that's why we do that. We put these edge creases to stop that happening, which is cool. But we also need some down here as well. And I'm just going to select these like that and increase that to 1 as well. If we go back to our subdiv and then object mode, you get this kind of weird effect going on there. I'm not really keen on using creases for that result, really. I'd rather just get rid of this crease here, actually. Get rid of that. I'd rather select these faces and press I to inset and give it a little bit of an inset like that. If we select these boundary loops now, or boundary loop just around this area here, let's increase that to 1. And then I'm going to add a couple of loop cuts just in there. I'm going to make both of those an increase, give them a mean crease of 1 each as well. If we turn on our subdiv now, you don't get that kind of distortion going on. Everything's nice and flat, which is cool. So let's crack on with the other hole now. So I'm going to go back to 7, Control 7 to flip the view, turn off the sub-D and tab into edit mode, switch to face mode, select these 4, just I to inset. Same as before, rinse and repeat. Delete those faces, edge select mode, alt click, and loop right click on your mouse, loop tools, circle. That worked out pretty well. No distortion really in terms of the stretch in there of the faces. So I'm gonna go with that. Now, that one's a little bit larger than this one. So let's scale that down a little bit. By the way, if you wanted to, you could actually, I'll just show you something. Switch to face mode again, select these 4, Control plus to grow the selection. You could select those ones, Shift D, right click, and then move them into that location there. And I might as well do that actually. Let's rotate that to match the hole we have there. So I'm going to move that somewhere like that. Okay, cool. So now we've got this edge loop here. If I press scale, that's where we made the loop, right? That's the one before. So now we have that, like so. All that we need to do now is just connect these up by pressing M at last. So select one vertex, that one there, M at last. Do that. You could just press Shift R as well. Last operation, Shift R, repeat. There you go. So we got all that work done for us there. The only thing we need to do now is add the mean crease to that one there. We could even scale this down a smidge as well. So we get kind of like a sharper rounded corner there. Let's do the same on this one. Let's scale that down. Something like that. So I'm going to switch back to those views and see how they look. Turn back on our sub D. And there you go. Now you could spend a bit more time placing these somewhere else. So what I'm going to do now is duplicate this this screw head here. And by the way, if you haven't checked out my video, I did make a video on how to make a Phillips Pan Head Screw head. So check that out. I'll try to put a link, well, I'll put a link in the description, hopefully a card. Right, I'm going to duplicate that, not Shift D, Alt D, because we can just create an instance of it. Move that along down to this part. You can see it's not quite right because it's an instance and we've got a mirror modifier on it as well. Let's delete the mirror modifier. And I'm going to rotate that 180 on the X or Y axis. So RX 180. Let's go to top, Control 7, switch to this bottom view. Let's move that into place there. We can't actually see it because we're upside down, so let's move that there. Essentially, I'm just going to scale that down. Something like that. Control 7, go to the bottom view, basically. And let's place that properly in the middle. Like that. And it might still be a little bit too big, so let's move it down a touch. Let's switch to the front view and wireframe. You can see there's the bottom of the cavity. It's probably good enough, right? So, right, oops, Control 7. And I'm going to duplicate that again with Alt D. Remember, Alt D creates an instance, not a copy, a duplicate as such. So let's move that there. And let's shift that a little bit. Might be easier in wireframe mode, actually. That will do. Let's go to object mode. So there we've got that part done as well. Very nice. So finally, the only thing we need to do now is, I haven't put a screw there yet. Check my original one. Did I put a screw in there? I did. So you could just copy that again, actually. I want to do that. I want to select that one over there again. Alt D, right click to leave it there. Then just move it along over here, like that. Let's get rid of the mirror modifier again. And this time you want to rotate it on the y-axis. So RY 90. Let's try and find that. There we go. 3 on the numpad gives me that perspective there, that view. We want to bring that approximately there. You can see there, even with 2 subdiv levels, this looks a little bit jagged. Well, very jagged, in fact. You put up to 3. Oh, of course I've turned. Oh, I put that onto 3 on the screw, didn't I? If we turn that onto 3 for the object, you can see that works much better. So we'll leave 3 on the render and leave it on 2 on the viewport. That should be fine. So I'm going to place that a little bit cleaner this time. So I'm going to tab into, select this object, tab into edit mode. I'm going to select this edge. That's why we don't have, that's why we have this weird thing going on there. We don't have enough subdivisions in this area, really, for 2 subdivisions. I mean, you could subdivide this and add more, just make it a circle again. Quite easy to do with loop tools, very easy. Anyway, with that selected, I'm going to do Shift S cursor to select it. And that will place it right in the middle of that edge there. So we go back to object mode, select the screw head, Shift S selection to cursor. And that will put it right bang in the middle. I'm going to go to top view, switch to wireframe. You can see there that's kind of intersecting. Let's bring it out a little bit. And then S for scale. Something like that. Let's bring that in a little bit. Let's make that a little bit smaller. Then that would do. So you have that one there as well. And for good measure, let's rotate these on there. Something like that. Hold down Control for incremental snapping, rotation snapping. Make it look a bit more organic, more realistic. But we could do that on these as well because they're exactly aligned. Very unlikely to happen in the real world. So let's do, rotate them on the blue, hold down Control, give them a bit of a rotation. Yeah, you can see they're different now. Very nice. Right. We can also do the same thing again. We're going to copy this screw head. Now I did actually make a different type of screw head on my original one. But it was like I think it was a six pointed star hole in the screw head. If you want to make that, go for it. I don't think I want to do that in this video. It's not really worth creating another screw head. We have a perfectly good one to use for now. So I'm going to duplicate that with Alt D again, move that along. And this time we're going to keep the mirror modifier. In fact, no, we're not. We're going to delete the mirror modifier. The reason being, the top part of the object, looking on my other screen, just double checking what I did on my other one. Yeah, so on the top of the holotape, there's a screw there. But on the bottom side, there's going to be like a little stub thing there. It could be anything, a little blinking light, an LED, whatever you want to make it. Or you can put a screw head there as well. But it's a really simple cylindrical shape, so we'll add that in a second. Let's just put this in its place. Let's move that there, like that. And I think what I want to do again is tab into, select this object here, that one, tap into edit mode, and select that edge there, and do Shift S, cursor to selected, go back to object mode, select our screw, which I can't see, genius, there it is, and we're going to do Shift S, selection to cursor. Let's turn off X-ray, and bring that up, bring that into focus there. We can scale this one up a little bit. And let's switch to front view, wireframe. And that actually goes down like that. You can see there it's kind of going into the hole maybe, I'm not really sure. It's intersecting. It's got a top view. It's not intersecting, but maybe it's a little bit too big. Let's make it a bit smaller. I'm going to bring that up using vertex snapping so it's lined up with that top surface there. Don't have to do that. I just thought I'd make it look as though it's flat flush with that top part there, which means we can bring this part. We select, oops, wrong object. We go into this object, tap into edit mode, and then front view, wireframe. Let's go to vertices there. We can select all these vertices just there. Now I want to make sure I haven't picked anything else, which I have. You can see there. If I move these, I make a disaster, right? I break everything. So let's make sure we hold down Control and deselect that one there and this one. We've got just those vertices there. In fact, we can go back to solid, turn off mirror modifier. You can see the ones that we've selected there. Cool. We just want to move these up on the Z axis. Just bring them a little bit shy of the bottom of that screw head there. Like that. Turn back on mirror modifier. And we're good to go. And again, I'm going to select that screw head. Just give it a slight rotation on the top view. It's R to rotate. Hold down Control. Rotate it that way a little bit, counterclockwise. Lovely. And finally, let's add this little cylindrical thing there. It's literally a little stubby thing, cylinder. So really easy to do. So we've already got our cursor right where we want it really, but it needs to be on the other side. So I'm going to might as well use my add-on for this. Just quickly add a cylinder. If you don't have the add-on, no worries. Just press Shift A, add mesh cylinder. And it's quite big as always. There it is. Let's bring the sides down to, let's go with 16. Bring the radius right down. And depth. Let's just zoom in and see what we're doing here. So the radius is still too big. Oh, see the way it jumps there is because we're getting into the smaller like values of the radius. Hold down Shift and that'll give us a little bit more control. So something like that is cool. Holding down Shift again, bring the radius or the depth a bit down. Let's move that down on the Z axis now. So all we need to do now, in fact, let's just bring it above because we don't need this face there. Let's tap into edit mode, face selection, 3 on the keyboard, delete that face like that. Go back to object mode and let's move it down to our recess there. And we're going to scale that up just a touch. Let's press 7, Control 7, view it from the bottom side. Let's press scale, bring that out just a little bit. Like that. Tap into edit mode, select that face. And we have snap in there, selected, vertex snapping. And without turning this on physically there, or literally, not physically, literally turning it on, you can hold down Control and that will turn on snapping temporarily. Keep holding down Control, then let go as we do that, as it snaps there. That's great, but you can see this top edge here, I'll switch to edge select mode, alt click, that's actually going through the bottom of the gap there. So I'm going to bring that down somewhere about there. Let's go to front view. Yeah, that's fine, you can leave it there. Doesn't have to be right flush with it. Turn off X-ray. I've just realized as well, we don't need to move that flush. That needs to actually be down like this because it needs to stick out. Be some sort of light or something, whatever you want it to be. And maybe that should be flush with the top side here, which kind of makes sense. It won't catch on anything. And let's press I for insert. And with that one selected, go to item, mean increase of 1. And we're going to add a loop cut with Control R along the height of that, about there. Mean increase again of 1. Come out to object mode. And I'm just going to quickly use my add-on again, use a subdiv modifier, add that. Give it 2 levels. Let's right click and smooth. And 2 levels for render. What does it look like with 1 level? Let's turn on wireframe. Optimal display off. But you can probably get away with 1 level. So let's leave that at 1 for the viewport and 2 for the render. That's cool. Now, one thing I didn't do earlier, you may have noticed, and that was I scaled the object in object mode, which causes a problem because we now have non-uniform scale. You can see there the add-on warns you of that. And if we look at the item scale values there, they're not 111. So we need to fix that. And really easy to do that. If you have the add-on, just click apply scale. If you don't, hit Control A and apply scale there. And that is as simple as that. The only thing left to do now is tab into edit mode. I'm going to select this top face there, delete it. Select the edge loop, just around the hole there, and then go to face, grid fill. If I go to the top view, or the bottom view, because it's on the bottom side, I want this to be rotated so we have straight lines. So let's do offset down here in the left, bottom left. And that was it. That's all it needed to be done. Now we have that. You can see there, that's what that looks like now. Simple geometry, nice and clean. Let's turn back on our subdiv. Turn off the wireframe overlay, which is just here, by the way. Right, next I'm going to make those labels. I'm going to start off with the more simple one, really. That's the one at the bottom. So it looks something like this. Basically a rectangle with rounded corners, and I just put that on the bottom there. So what I'm going to do is let's start with the top view. So it's a simple shape, right? So let's start with a plane. And by the way, I'm sorry my head was in the way last time in this bottom left-hand corner when I was doing the cylindrical sizes and stuff. No big deal, no big deal. We just change those after the fact anyway. Anyway, right, there's our plane. I'm just going to press S for scale and bring that right down. So I'm going to copy the dimensions from my original one. So on the Y, I've got, excuse me, my goodness me, dry throat. Right, I'm going to copy the value there for the Y-axis. So on the width, I've made that 0.07, which is that, he says, right? Let's try the X-axis now. Let's copy that. And the X, I went with 0.024. And the Z doesn't really matter because that's just the depth. So make that as deep as you like, really. Anyway, let's move that up just above the object there. That's the size of our label, essentially. Move that to the side for a minute. Let's focus with that on click the period key on the numpad, and that will focus in on the object that you're looking at. So, as always, if you've scaled that in object mode, you need to go in and apply the scale. And I'm going to hit that button there. As before, Control A brings up the menu, and you can apply the scale like that. So with this object, because it's a really simple shape, it's only a plane with a rounded corner, right? So I'm not going to use any modifiers for this. I'm literally just going to make it as I see it, really. I'm going to tab into edit mode, select that face. Let's go to top view, actually. So what I did was I selected all of the vertices before. Let's just zoom in on one of these and press Control Shift B. Again, that's a vertex bevel. Let's scroll the mouse wheel. And I want to go with 6 segments. Will that give us quads afterwards? It will. Let's go with 6, an even number. Yeah, you can see that's the radius of the label, essentially. So maybe make that a little bit smaller. And hold down Shift. And let's go with that. That's pretty cool. So let's select that face now. So select that face, the Engon. Press I to inset. Hold down Shift, and you get the final control. So you can see there, it's a very small inset. Try and keep squares if you can, it always helps. And now, like before, many times before, you've seen me do this a million times. Let's make these connected. So select 2 vertices and press J for join. Do the same up and down. Press J. And there you go. So the reason we added a an even number of segments on the radius there, on the bevel, so that we can actually do quads here just by doing this. We add two edges like that, and you've got a quad here, quad there, and a quad there. So let's do that with all four corners. So let's select the vertices. In fact, we can use the knife tool because we can go 1, 2, and then we're done. Press K for the knife tool. Click on that vertex there, that one, and then back over here. And right click, enter. And that now gives us these two edges. Let's hopefully, I've made these cuts in the right place. You shouldn't have any overlapping, oops. Press H for hide there. No overlapping vertices. That's cool. So do the same on the other side. If you don't want to use the knife tool, we don't like using it, just select the vertices like that. You can select them in that order actually. 1, 2, and 3. Press J, and that will connect them in that order, which is quite cool. Now we have our lovely segmented object. The last thing I'm going to do on this one really, the last thing I'm going to do before I add some thickness to it is to add some loop cuts. So let's maybe add, don't have to do this, but I'm going to do it anyway. Why not? Let's go with something like that. And let's do it the other way as well. And we're looking for squares, right? As always. That's good enough. Now we've got a well-formed topology, which is cool. So back to object mode. This is lovely, but it's obviously infinitely flat. It's got no thickness to it. So we can go to edit mode. In fact, we don't even need to do that. We can just go to solidify. So I won't use the add-on for this one to click that, but go up to add modifier, generate, and solidify. Now we've got that. And we do need to do auto shade smooth. Although, probably not. Let's do shade smooth and it'll look weird for now. But don't worry about that just yet. So what I'm going to do is click on even thickness firstly. Normals, I like to turn that onto high quality. Why not? And change the thickness, which is really big right now. Hold down Control or Shift, I should say. That's still too thick, so let's bring that. Let's click into there and put 0, 4. Still a bit thick. Let's try 3. Let's go with that. And let's apply the solidify modifier. If we tab into edit mode, the shading is, I mean, it's okay, but it's not great. And the reason for that is probably because, well, it's because we don't have a bevel on the edge of these parts here. So all the boundary loops essentially. So I'm going to select both of those. So Alt-click, Alt-Shift-click to select more than one. And let's do Control-B. At this point, you want to hold down Shift, give it a small bevel, and scroll the mouse wheel. Whoops. Scroll the mouse wheel to get less segments. I think I might just go with 2. Should be enough. Let's go with 3, make it a little bit larger. It's a bit overkill, but I think that gets the job done. There you go. That's our label done. Easy peasy. Just need to place that wherever you like. I'm going to put it there. But before we do that, let's check face orientation. So blue is good, red is bad. Blue means your face normals are facing in the right direction. So make sure you check that and apply the scale of your objects as well. Rightio, let's move that to the bottom of that bit there, like so. So 7 on the numpad, Control 7 to flip it. I'm going to move that somewhere there. Let's check where I put it on my other one. Yeah, it's about there really. Something like that. And then while in that view, I'm going to press R to rotate, hold down Control and just rotate it a little bit like that. You don't have to hold down Control, I'm just doing that. There's our object. It's probably inside that bit there, which it kind of is. So let's go to front view. Well, it's not inside, but it's, yes, it is. Move that out. And you want to zoom right in here. In fact, let's just zoom out and move it out there. And click on the blue arrow, hold it down, hold down Control. And that will invoke the snapping. And then that's it. It will snap to the surface of that object. So that's great. And now we can do the top badge sticker. So with that object selected, that one there, I want to tab into edit mode. And we've got this fairly decently clean topology there, which is cool. So let's switch to face select. And what we want to do is select, I don't know how far up, let's go from there to there. If you're wondering how I selected those without holding down shift, clicking each one individually, you hold down, you click the first one, hold down the Control key, and then click on the one that you want to think of it as your destination. That will pick the shortest path between those 2 points. So let's continue down here now. I want to continue clicking like this. And in fact, let's select these as well. Oops, made a mess there. So now we can just press the C key to get our selection brush. Makes it a little bit easier. I'm just going to paint the selection now. Then right click to stop using that. And in fact, we need to get more, don't we? We need to get this one here, that one there, and hold down Control, click there. This one there, that one there. That will do. We'll copy those. And just check to see how big. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty good actually. It's about the right size. Anyway, with those selected, I'm going to press Shift D for duplicate, and then right click to leave them back at their origin place. And before you click away, really important, don't click away, press the P key and separate by selection. So now we've got this object, we've just split off and it sits exactly on top of the other one, which is why you're getting this kind of conflict on the screen there. That's called Z fighting or Z fighting, which is depth. You can't work out the depth because we're in exactly the same place. So Blender doesn't know which one to render first. And so with that selected, I mean, really you just need to add a solidify modifier to this now and you're pretty much done. So we've got a subdiv modifier there because that's we have that for the corners, right? Let's turn that off for the time being. And let's add a solidify modifier. So generate solidify. And I'm going to place that just above there, above the subdivision modifier. While we're at it, let's call that label large because we called the other one label small. Okay. Again, normals, high quality under the solidify modifier. Even thickness, it's really cool to add that. You can see it's going down into the object. We don't want that. We want it to go the other way. So let's change our thickness to a different value there until we get it above. That's way too thick, of course. So hold down Shift and then reduce that like that. It's a bit hard to see. Let's just turn on wireframe actually. You can see there, that's the kind of thing we're getting now. But it's way too thick and you can see the shading looks a bit weird. Just turn off the, yeah, you can see there the shading looks pretty bad. But we still have a little bit of work to do. So let's isolate that with the / question mark key. And it's just too thick. And we could make it the same thickness as the other label there. Let's just go with 0.4. Yeah, let's go with that. Why not? That's fine. And I'm going to apply that solidify modifier. Let's apply it. Now it still looks a bit weird. What happens if we turn on our subd modifier? That makes it look pretty cool. Although we do get a bit of bending because the top view you can see there. This looks pretty bad. And the reason it's doing that is because it's taking that point there and then this one and then trying to smooth between them. So you get this kind of stretchy, elongated thing going down the side there. It's a bit of it. It's an easy fix. You simply need to add a loop cut here, but it kind of messes up the top part there. So essentially, what we could do like we did before is make the shape first and then bevel all of the corners, right? So anyway, we might as well add a loop cut there. Why not? Let's do that. And I'm going to move that in. Let's go to the top view here. So you basically want to try and keep a square there. So with that loop, edge loop selected, I want to press G twice and slide it along until we get like a square. You can see that kind of wraps it up quite nicely there. Very nice. Let's just make sure we haven't got any weird things going on. Right, enough waffling. I've rambled on enough. Those are the labels. Yeah, we need to UV unwrap those in a later episode when we do the materials, but that's really straightforward. So as always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.